Perfect.
Thanks.
Well, thanks everyone for joining here with us today. Um, as Sandy said, my name is Chris Morey. I'm the IT Services Manager here for Electronic Communication Services. Today we're going to be discussing managing technology for small businesses and what's really truly involved beyond just the nuts and bolts. So a little bit about me here. I've been in the Erie area doing IT services for about 15 years. I was born and raised here in Erie. I've also done work for clients, across the entire United States. I've had clients out in California, Arizona, down south, so across the country. My areas of expertise are really built around the business aspect of IT. On the technology side, I'm really focused on the networking, the communications, and really the disaster recovery and the business continuity planning. So if you join us in a couple weeks, we're going to talk about business continuity and disaster recovery. Should be a pretty interesting topic about that. So Jeff Lytle, he's going to give a few details about himself. He's our sales manager and our owner here at ECS. So Jeff, I'll let you take it away here.
All right, thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. As Chris said, my name is Jeff Lytle. I'm one of the owners here at Electronic Communication Services. I want to give you a brief overview of who we are and how we became a managed service provider before we get started here. So we here at ECS are celebrating our 35th year in business this year, and we offer a variety of technology to businesses locally in the tri-state area and hotels all over the country. Our team currently consists of 14 team members, and we're actively looking to continue to grow. We recently moved into Erie from Albion, and we're located at West Grandview and Peachtree. Our products and services have grown dramatically over the years. Today, we offer voice solutions that include phone systems and cell signal boosters, security solutions that include video surveillance, access control, and visitor management, audio-visual solutions that include sound systems, paging, and meeting room AV. We offer low voltage cabling, and our latest offering is managed IT services. So as a small business ourselves, we were also faced with the dilemma of how to manage our own internal technology. Historically, we had one of our own technicians support our technology as needed, but today's technology is very different than yesterday's technology. Today, technology needs to be managed and monitored so it stays up to date in order to function efficiently and also stay as secure as possible. Managing this technology is a full-time job, and small businesses not only need the proper tools to do so, but are also faced with either having to hire additional staff, redirect existing staff from their current responsibilities, or sign with a managed service provider. Prior to offering managed IT services ourselves, we were faced with the same choice. We didn't want to take existing technicians away from their typical job duties supporting our customers. So we decided that working with a managed service provider or MSP would be more cost effective than hiring someone. And we felt the benefits of having an IT team supporting us made the most sense for our business. While we were working with this particular MSP, our existing customers started asking if we offered IT services, and we felt we could offer a better form of managed IT services than what we had access to. We feel a successful relationship between an MSP and a customer is one that is a true partnership. The goal of an MSP customer relationship is not only to make sure expectations are being met, but also ensure that the customer is able to focus on their business and not have to worry about their technology. Today, we are rapidly growing our IT customer base while continuing to offer all the voice, security, and AV products and services I mentioned earlier. Therefore, this allows us to truly offer almost all the technology a business needs. Before I hand it back to Chris, I want to thank you all again for joining us today. Chris has a great presentation going over what options a small business has and what needs to be considered when deciding how to manage your technology. Chris, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. So we're going to get into some of these, I'm going to say nuts and bolts of managing technology here, but it's really more than nuts and bolts. So, when we're talking about what's involved in managing technology, it's not the computers, it's not the laptops, it's not the networks. It's so many things more than just that. It is your email, it's your licensing for your email, it's the licensing for your tools that you're using in technology. It's your domain for your website that should be linked to your email. I do like to tell people that I don't like to see a Gmail or a Yahoo or an Outlook email coming from a business. Your business email should be coming from your website domain. You have a website domain. If you don't, you should be working with somebody to get a website domain. Link your email to that. Along with that is things like help desk. Who's going to actually service these things that you're buying? If you're, buying 5 new laptops, who's going to actually help set those up? Who's going to help the users actually start to use those devices? And who's going to be asking those questions? Do you know those questions to ask of, does every person need that same level of email licensing? So it's not just getting the email and getting the licensing and getting the domains, getting all the services you need, but it's also evaluating what level of service do you really need out of each of those services. When we're looking at somebody like Microsoft, they have 5 different, levels of small business packaging licensing. What makes sense for you and what makes sense for your employees? You might need to split it out between different entities. That's all doable, but you need to be asking those questions. Some other things that you should be thinking about are your web development group. I already kind of spoke about getting your domain and having a website available. Well, web development group, they're going to be the ones that are maintaining that website, keeping it up to date, making sure it's secure from hacking, and making sure that somebody can't get in and hijack your website and direct people somewhere else. They're going to be doing those things. They're also going to be doing things like SEO, making sure that you could be found on the internet. Typically, anyone who's going to do any business with anyone, they're going to go to their website first. They're not going to go to the website for information. They're not going to go to the website for details. They're going to go to the website to make sure it's there. Is it valid? Does it look presentable? Does it match all your logos? Do all those things line up? Having a web development team can really help and make sure that all of that's in line. Similar approach, when we're going to the printing aspect, hey, having somebody available who's going to do your print jobs that are going to make sure that you're being presented the right way. If you have a big sales proposal, you're going to run it through your black and white printer that you have sitting here or your inkjet printer. You might want some nicer paper. You might want something nicer. So have that printing vendor already lined up that they know who you are. They have your information. Hey, it's easy to just message them, let them know, hey, you need something. You also need that printing function of, say you have an issue with that printer that you have, say you bought a nicer, bigger multi-function printer, but you need help with that when it doesn't staple appropriately, when it won't bind that proposal appropriately the way it's supposed to. Having that vendor available, having somebody that's available to help you out, hey, that's going to be very valuable for you. Your communication and phones, those tie in as well, because when you're really talking about how to present your company in the best way possible, if you have 5 salespeople that are out on the road and they're using their cell phones and they call a client from their cell phone, well, the client's getting their cell phone number. So it's their cell phone number. Even if it's part of your business, it's still their cell phone number. Well, there's technology that can help with that, where their cell phone becomes your business phone number. They're calling out as your business. They have an extension in your system. They're calling the phone, their extension from the office, and they're calling the cell phone. So again, it's all about how you're presenting yourself to your clientele. You want to have a uniform experience across the board. Um, you know, kind of going to a different route here, moving on to hardware and asset management. Hardware costs a lot of money, and it depreciates very quickly. It is kind of like a used car. You're depreciating the moment you drive a new car off the lot there. So making sure you're spending the right money on the technology that you need. Do you need the $1,000 laptop that will just get you going? Do you need the $3,000 laptop with accident protection? Because again, you have a salesperson that's out on the road and they're working out of their car and they get out of their car and drop their laptop. Well, you might need something with a better warranty for somebody that's out on the road. Somebody who's sitting at a desk, well, they may not need as much of a warranty. So asking yourself those questions, what do you really need out of technology to make sure you're getting that return on investment? It does cost on average to set up a desk for a new employee, about $3,000 to set up new equipment on a desk for somebody. When you consider all of the costs of, say it's a laptop or a desktop, monitors, keyboards, mice, networking gear, setting up the devices. Hey, you have a printer that's down the hallway. It's a shared expense between everyone. So, you have about $3,000 on an average setup. That needs to be replaced every 3 to 5 years, depending on what you buy. And if you break that down per month, you're talking $50 to $80 per desk per month that you have to invest in this technology. So as you're hiring people, these are the things to think about when you're thinking about total cost of an employee over the course of a month, a year, and long term. One of the last areas I'm going to cover on this page is compliance management. I will say that each of these items and all the other compliances, they could be their own lunch and learns. We could have a dedicated hour that's just on PCI compliance, which is about processing credit card information. We could do an hour on HIPAA, which is about the medical industry and protecting personal identifiable information, PII. So a lot of acronyms in the IT world. GDPR, that involves the European Union. So if you're doing business with anyone who works with the European Union or anyone who's in business in the European Union, GDPR affects you here in America. You might have NIST requirements. NIST is working with the government Department of Defense. There was a big change a couple of years ago. CMMC was going to be the new compliance. It was going to replace NIST. All of a sudden, CMMC is too complex. No one adopted it, so NIST is still where we're at right now. But CMMC compliance is coming. All these compliance layers, they all require things from technology, things from the business, things from all areas and all aspects to become compliant. There's technology that helps with PCI compliance. There's technology that helps with HIPAA, but it still comes down to business practices, having documentation of what your expectations are. So, you might say, hey, I'm PCI compliant, I'm HIPAA compliant. But if you don't have documentation to say what you're doing with this information, you might not actually be compliant. So again, we could have a whole lunch and learn about each of these compliances. I'm going to be the first to say I'm not the one that would want to hold these lunch and learns. There's so many intricacies of each compliance. What you should take away with is if you need to be compliant based on some government regulation, hey, hire somebody who can help you out. I've been through that process with people to get them HIPAA compliant. HIPAA laws change constantly. You might get the request this year, and you get a provider, somebody who can help you fill out their documentation. Hey, those questions are all basic questions about your business. Do you have a documentation plan for this? Do you have a multi-factor authentication? Do you have these certain things to become compliant? So work with somebody who can help you out with that. Can certainly make compliance a lot easier. So a couple other things to be concerned about when you're talking about holistic managing technology is emerging technology. Things that are coming on the forefront here. Security is obviously a big topic for everyone right now. Cyber liability insurance I put under security because everyone should have cyber liability insurance. I'm going to get into cyber liability insurance in a little bit in a few slides here. So I don't want to belabor that right now. But another thing on the security side of things are, another acronym. There's a few of them in here. This is called XDR versus antivirus. So a lot of people know what antivirus is. It's the common tool for 30, 35 years now has been, hey, you need an antivirus tool. You need to protect your PCs. Well, antiviruses are very reactive. You downloaded a file, it's bad, it's starting to do something bad, and hey, it did its bad thing, it's propagated. The antivirus then scans it, then sees it, then shuts it down. So it's very reactive after you've done something. Newer tools out there are called XDR tools. And you might see them under a lot of different acronym names because no one standardized it in the past few years for what acronym we're going to use in IT. So XDR seems to be the standard right now. And really what that's going to stand for is really advanced endpoint detection and response. So, and really, we're talking about the detection and response area. We're going to detect things faster as they happen, and then we're going to respond to them as they happen. We're not going to wait for everything to have already happened and analyze it. It's going to happen live. It's going to happen in the moment there. So that's going to be a big difference between your traditional antivirus. It's going to be reactive, and your XDR, which is going to be very proactive solutions. Um, there's even XDR solutions out there that can really stop ransomware right in its tracks. There's tools out there that they'll put hidden files that are very easy for ransomware to see, that are Word documents, Excel documents, PDF files, the files that ransomware really attacks. Well, it puts those files right inside the computer, right in the main folder, so that they're easy to find for ransomware. Because when ransomware starts affecting one computer, the very first thing it does is it looks for all those Office files. It looks for all those PDFs and it encrypts those files. And then from there propagates out to the other computers on the network. Well, if those files that we have or that tool has injected on the computer, if those get edited or changed or anything happens to those files, well, this XDR tool recognizes that as bad acting, it's a bad behavior, and it can actually shut down that computer immediately so that that ransomware can't propagate out to the rest of the files and it can't get to the other computers out there. So when you hear things in the news, like, there's ransomware attacks and this big company got ransomware and this company got ransomware, there's a lot of IT people out there that are sitting back thinking, huh, this could have been easily prevented between security tools that are out there and employee training. And I'm going to get to employee training here in a little bit of what you should be doing with employee training on security. Cloud and collaboration tools. Hey, we're actually going to do a whole lunch and learn about cloud and collaboration tools next week. Just to kind of give you a little insight to, starter, what we're going to be talking about is just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean it's safe. We have this, ambiguous cloud right now, and no one really knows what this cloud is or what it does or anything about it. But what I will tell you is clouds prevent a sunny day. These are not happy clouds. These are thunder clouds. You need to be safe when you're in the cloud. There are good clouds out there, but there's so many bad clouds. Don't bring rain into Erie. Don't bring the thunderstorm into Erie. Don't bring the tornadoes into Erie. When we're talking about moving into the cloud, you're bringing in more risk because being in the cloud is just more risky. So, in the grand scheme of things, don't get caught in this cloud without an umbrella. Don't get caught without a raincoat. There's going to be a storm. We see it sprinkled throughout here and there. We see these ransomware attacks. We see, these big, things that are happening in the news. Don't be one of those. Just recognize that that can happen, but there's also ways to prevent it, and there's also ways to mitigate that risk. So, work with a technology professional who's going to help you with that risk. So, couple of things to consider here. I talked a lot about some, things that you need to consider when you're working with technology, and your technology is going to help your business. You have a couple different options. Like Jeff had kind of alluded to at the beginning, you can hire your own IT person. You can farm out that work to a managed service provider. You can do some combination between everything. So, couple of things to consider when you're hiring your own internal staff. Our overall costs. The salary, the benefits, the taxes, all the normal stuff you have to consider when you're dealing with hiring employees. But there are other things like licensing and tools. That IT person is going to come in and say, hey, I want this antivirus, this and XDR tool. I want this backup tool. I want this. It's all going to add up and needs to be considered when you're bringing in somebody of what a total cost of ownership of an employee is going to cost. One of the reasons why I mentioned, hey, it's $3,000 for a desk to set up all that equipment and you have to replace every 5 years. The average IT person is closer to $4,000 or $5,000 to set up a desk, just because they need more equipment, they need more things. Also things to consider when you're hiring your own staff is, what questions should you ask during hiring? How can you really tell if this person really understands IT and understands your business need in IT, or are they just, blowing smoke? I kind of alluded to this earlier. There's a lot of acronyms in IT. We can just throw those out like candy, and everyone thinks that we're the smartest people in the world. There's some, easy role playing and some questions you can ask to really determine, how good is this person? You can also use an HR managed provider or an IT managed service provider to assist in this process. If you want your own staff, well, there's tons of local HR firms and local managed service firms. We can all help you find that right person where, you take that load off. Yes, it does cost extra money, but hey, you need that boots on ground, you need that dedicated person. Hey, that person, we can help you find that person. And maybe it's not just one person. Maybe you do need multiple people to help fill the role of all of your IT needs as you start thinking about all these other, aspects of IT. You might need that overlap of knowledge. You might need the overlap of time. That IT person needs that break, every 6 months to step away for a few days because, the IT world, there's a lot of pressure in that IT world. So you need that overlap to be able to cover those times. You need to be thinking about that with all your staff. Any staff needs to be able to take that time off, and how are you going to cover that time? Certainly having your own internal staff, you're going to have that dedicated IT staffer. They're going to gain that detailed knowledge of your systems, how you use the systems, what's wrong in those systems, and they're going to be able to dedicate an incredible amount of time and resources to getting things just right for your business. So there's a lot of bonus to hiring your own internal IT staff. You just have to make sure, hey, is it the right time to do it? There are the break fix approach to internal IT support. What this kind of relates to is the concept of I have a guy that I call. Quote that in air quotes there. When something breaks, I got a guy that I call. He's always available for me. He's so cheap. Yes, that can be very inexpensive and extremely flexible. However, what happens when that help isn't available for a long time? Say they stop doing what they're doing. Now you have to scramble and find somebody else. So this, approach can be good, but you do need to be in touch with that person a lot, especially if it's been months since you reached out to that person. Don't expect that they're going to be there and ready for you. Follow up with them periodically, make sure that they are going to be available for you when you do need them. You know, when you're going to have this presentation here and you're going to present to a bunch of people, potentially across the country, you want to make sure your microphone works and, the presentation works. If it doesn't, you need to know that you can call somebody or walk down the hallway and grab somebody and pull them in and fix your microphone for you before your meeting happens. Certainly no contracts with that break fix. You got a guy means no service level agreement for your response level. So again, your guy might be available. That person might be the person still, but hey, you're going into this presentation. You're going to present to a bunch of people and have this big webinar, and your microphone doesn't work. Well, your break fix guy says, I need like 3 hours to get back to you. There's no service level agreement that says, hey, they have to get back to you in a certain amount of time. A lot of times you're going to get the default service level agreement by having your own internal staff, because your service level agreement for an internal staff should be you're getting a response within a few minutes. You can walk down the hallway and grab that person and pull them in. It's a quick SLA. But you might have a different SLA based on your agreement that you have. Typically, when you have that break fix approach, you're not, getting anything about security trends, security best practices, anything like that. They're coming in and they're paid to fix the problem. Once it's fixed, they move on to the next problem. They're not coming back and saying, this is why it broke to begin with, so that they can help you prevent those problems from happening in the future. And again, this is a very reactive approach to IT. Kind of goes back to that antivirus solution. Antivirus is very reactive. It has to, something bad has to have happened before the antivirus can even recognize that there's an issue. It's not looking at behavior, what's normal behavior and what's abnormal behavior. So, for most antivirus software, changing a file extension, which is what ransomware does, It takes a Word document and makes it not a Word document anymore. That's abnormal behavior. People don't typically do that. But an antivirus, hey, people can do that. So it's not necessarily abnormal. The newer solutions are going to be proactive. They're going to assume this is bad until you tell it otherwise. So there's a lot of cool tools out there that can really help with that. Another approach that you can take, as Jeff mentioned earlier, you can go out and you can hire a managed service provider. But there are things that you should consider when hiring an MSP partner. Some positives here. There are a few. You can let that company find and hire those best technicians, and you get to train them before they touch your systems. We're IT people. We get keys to the kingdom. We have to just to do our job. We have to have administrative rights to your email. We have to have administrative rights to your shares. There's no way around it. We have to do it to do our jobs. When you hire somebody, you have to give them those keys immediately. When you hire a managed service provider, you're giving them the keys, but you're giving certain people there the keys. They're responsible for managing the keys appropriately out from there. And then they're going to bring on the right staff, train them appropriately, and then give them the keys only when they've been trained and proven that they're responsible with those keys. You're also going to gain that vast scope of knowledge. Like I said, when you're hiring an internal staff, you might want that overlap of knowledge. Managed service providers usually have multiple staff members with multiple different types of backgrounds. So, you might get some, we're everyone in IT, we're all jacks of all trades and a master of a few. You might get a lot of different masters by going with a managed service provider because it's in their best interest to have a master of different areas with everyone being a jack of all trades. This type of model is really typically a good fit to get up and running your business as you're trying to decide, do I need to hire somebody? Well, you don't know what you don't know yet. Let that managed service provider gain the details, the knowledge, and the aggregate history of your IT support needs. Then, hey, you can make the decision based on your own data. You don't have to make a decision based on gut reaction. You really get that C-level technology advisor without the C-level costs of hiring a CIO. You can get that from a managed service provider for a much cheaper monthly rate. Managed service providers will typically work with existing staff and with other managed service providers. We all play nice together. I mean, there's web developers in Erie, there's HR firms in Erie, there's printing, there's all these different firms that can help a small business get going in Erie. We all will work together because we all know the benefit of Erie itself succeeding. So, we understand that value in this local area, but it certainly translates nationwide as well. I'm going to get into some of the nationwide things too in a little bit, that really security is everyone's job. So we'll get into that, but this kind of route, it provides more of a co-managed partnership where, hey, you might have somebody internally that's handling your help desk. They're the ones going down that you can grab and pull and fix your mic. But that person may not be the one in charge of thinking about the 5-year goals and the 10-year goals and discussing with you the return on investment when you're making a $25,000 IT purchase. So, kind of layering that approach can certainly help out anyone. I do want to note that the concept of that break fix model is going extinct. It's just really hard. I mean, most managed service providers, they actually started out as a break fix. That's just how things started in the consulting world, really in those 90s and early 2000s. So it worked, and a lot of places are still in that mode, and it is available. But that model is going extinct because from a business side, how do you predict costs when you have no idea what's going to break when? When is Windows going to break 20 computers? It happened in March. It's not going to happen in April, May, or June. It's very hard to, as a business owner, to be in that break fix model. So as a business owner, that managed service model, from an IT services perspective, that actually makes a lot more sense for us too, because, hey, we have fixed amounts coming in that we can help manage. So it's really, makes sense for us and it makes sense at the business side as well. Just a kind of brief overview of all those things I just said there. Some pros and cons, nice, easy pros and cons list here. Managed service providers, again, all staffing is managed by them. You don't have to worry about that staffing. You have one set rate for your IT support needs. So again, that's, it's great for the managed service provider. We know what our, forecast revenue is going to be, but you also know what your forecast costs are going to be in IT. Say Windows does break something and all of your machines break in March. Well, you have a contract that's covering Windows patching and that's covered. So your costs don't change. It's on the managed service provider to make sure that their costs are set appropriately. You can certainly scale up and down as needed. You don't have to hire people, you don't have to fire people in IT. Let the managed service provider deal with that. That's what they're there for. They have to absorb that, up and down in their business too. Some cons, you might have to commit to more than what you want. And a managed service provider is going to come in and say, you need this, you need this advanced security, you need training, you need this firewall, you need this protection, you need this, and all of a sudden your bill is astronomical. So, in order to sign up with that managed service provider, you might need to commit to more than what you want. So really that's going to take a lot of time and investment from a business owner to go out and shop different managed service providers to make sure you're getting what you truly want, what you truly need in your business. Your assistance actually may be limited by those contract restrictions. I talked about our the SLA concept earlier, the service level agreement. How fast are you supposed to get response? How fast should a ticket be acknowledged that there's a problem? How fast should resolution be, applied to that? And what can be fixed? So say you have a contract and you committed to this managed service provider, but, printing wasn't on there. There's no help for printing at all. And you need to print up that, sales document or that sales proposal because you're going to go out and sell your product to somebody or sell your service to somebody. Well, you call up your managed service provider and you find out, oh, printing's actually not included because I either didn't know it wasn't part of the contract or because I didn't know I had to ask that. Or it might just been cleared out to say, no, we don't fix printers, but you have a printer vendor and you have to go call them. Or maybe that contract says that the managed service provider calls that printing vendor for you. So things to think about when you're signing into a contract with somebody, hey, what's covered and what's not covered? Because setting those expectations at the very beginning is very critical for moving forward. If you're hiring an IT person, obviously you get a lot of bonuses right off the bat. You get somebody in your facility, somebody local to you. Even if you're a full remote shop, you still have somebody that's dedicated to you. They're going to gain that intimate knowledge of your systems. They're not going to have to deal with other clients and other systems and other line of business applications, other types of licensing. No, they know your system. Now, as a managed service provider, I take pride in knowing people's systems. I try to instill that on my staff as well. But it's unrealistic for me to expect that even my staff is going to know every single line of business software that's out there. There's always an oddball, program that comes by. One of our clients is a disaster restoration group, for natural disasters. They have a very specific program that's for their line of business. All disaster restoration companies have used this type of software before. I don't know it, but I know the back end of it and I know what it's supposed to do. And that's what we're hiring, are the people who know what it's supposed to do. But when you hire your person internally, they're going to know that program inside and out far greater than anyone else is going to, because they're going to have that time to be able to do that. Obviously, some negatives. Hiring is complicated. Hiring is very expensive. When you're looking at total costs between different solutions, when you're thinking about hiring somebody, that total cost of salary, licensing, all their tools, How much is a managed service provider going to cost you per month for all those things as well? Those are things that you should look at as a business owner. Do you want to hire somebody out? Do you want to hire somebody internally? What's your true cost of investment on that? So I did touch on this a little bit ago. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that having a security-oriented mindset is everyone's job. It's not just business owners' jobs. It's not IT professionals' jobs. It's not security professionals' jobs. It's everyone's job to have a security mindset, in this day and age. According to Veeam, Veeam is one of the best backup solution tools out there. If you go and research a little bit about Veeam, they've been around for many years. They're very trusted, reliable. So they produce a very good backup solution. In their report last year, in their 2023 Data Protection Trends report, 85% of all ransomware attacks actually targeted small businesses. You don't hear about those in the news, though. Small businesses, typically, the ransomware happens to them. They either go out of business, they recover their data because they had a backup solution, or they start fresh. But that's it. They don't tell the news. No one knows because it's kind of embarrassing to admit that your company got ransomware. I get it. It's not something that you want to broadcast out to the world. So if 85% of the actual targets are ransomware for a small business, there's a lot of attacks going on. Think about all the big attacks that you hear in the news. There's at least 1, 2, 3 huge ones a month that you hear about in the news. You get a small little blip news article, then you never hear about it again. The majority of those attacks are actually happening to small businesses because they know small businesses are either going to pay up or they're going to go under. It's a very easy, quick game to them. When those hackers and those ransomware people, when they're playing with the big players that you see in the news, there's so much risk involved in that. It's just not worth their time most of the time to earn that kind of money from those big hits, where they're getting their bread and butter are really from these small businesses. So security needs to be on everyone's mindset because without it being on everyone's mindset, it's going to, creep in. And really, when I'm talking about the security checklist here on the right-hand side, I have 4 items on here. I don't have time in this webinar to go through everything that everyone should be thinking about in a security checklist. I actually did build out, it'll be on our website pretty soon here, actually a 1-page document about a lot of things you should be considering, everyone should be considering from a security mindset. And really it all encompasses in this top level item, this culture shift towards security. And what we mean by a culture shift is everybody's business culture needs to shift towards security matter being, a big piece of their business. Security is going to come from a top-down approach. If the business owner doesn't care about data security or business security, the managers aren't going to care. If the managers don't care, the employees don't care. If the employees don't care, even the vendors don't care. And it propagates very quickly, that attitude of not caring. If the business manager cares about security and is adamant and is investing in security, hey, the managers are going to be invested in security. The employees are going to be invested in security. And this isn't just business security. This is their own home life as well, because, what they do in their home life still affects their work life. Say if they're on Facebook at home, their Facebook gets hacked. They find out that, hey, this person was a higher up person at XYZ company. Well, that hacker now has access to the Facebook account and they're posting things as that person representing that business. So this is something that everyone needs to take very seriously in their personal lives and in their business lives. So it really, it all starts with a culture shift. Top-down approach, we need to take this seriously from the business owner perspective to move it down that chain. Using a couple of easy tools, we can really make that culture shift very easy. Things like password management tools. I kind of chuckle when, there's still the password that's underneath somebody's keyboard whenever I go around and help people out. Because, that really, no one really ever thought about that after the fact. It was, well, we shouldn't have those. Okay, well, who's going to break into my physical building to get a password underneath a keyboard to log in with somebody's account? Well, chances are that's not going to happen. But what's really going to happen is if it's written down on a post-it note, chances are that same person is posting it somewhere online, they're emailing it inappropriately. It's not a generated secure password. It's still something relatively easy to remember, but they need to still write it down. Those are all still valid things. I mean, human psychology, we're not going to change that. But what we can change is using a tool and ownership providing that tool to the employees where you have to use a password management tool. You have a long passphrase that you have to enter to get into that tool. You have a multi-factor authentication from your phone to gain access to that tool. From there, inside that tool, you have all of your passwords stored inside that tool, encrypted, secure. Hackers can't get in and actually access your passwords. Then every password is a generated password. There's no words in it. It's just a random set of numbers, characters, and letters in there for you. So, starting with something like that can really shift that culture towards security because if you force in password management, well, people have to use strong passwords. There's no way around it. Um, Moving into employee security training, there are a lot of platforms out there and a lot of people who can help train your staff on security without taking a lot of time. Because that's, when you're a business owner, your salesperson needs to be out selling. They can't be sitting in an IT security training seminar for an entire day. It's a waste of their time. They need to be out there selling. So use a security training platform that is easy to digest. There's platforms out there that have videos that are cartoon based that are 1 to 2 minutes long with a 5 question questionnaire at the end to make sure that staff are actually, hey, I'm going to watch this 5 minute video about how to identify a bad email. Is an email actually legitimate or not? And there's some really fun facts in there and a little test. And then, hey, you as a business owner get a report of who's passing these tests, who's failing these tests. And even some of these platforms can actually send out the fake emails ourselves as the IT people to try to trick people. Will you actually open it? You as a business owner get that report to say, hey, these 5 staff people are very susceptible. They'll click on anything. They'll open up any email. They'll interact with anyone. You need more training for those specific people. So training your employees doesn't have to be a long, arduous process. It can be quick steps, but anything that you're doing is going to be a drastic improvement. The final piece of the security checklist that we're going to review today really encompasses all of this, and this is that cyber liability insurance that I mentioned earlier. If you have cyber liability insurance, most of the things that I've spoken about today, you already know a decent bit about because a lot of my presentation actually comes from cyber liability insurance questionnaires. What are insurance companies asking businesses before that insurance company covers them from a cyber liability risk? So cyber liability insurance is not something I'm involved in. I don't do anything with insurance. Most managed service providers don't sell insurance, but you should be going to your business insurance and asking them, do they offer cyber liability insurance? And if they don't, ask them why they aren't, because they should be. Cyber liability insurance, it's kind of think of it as the early days of the car insurance companies. At one point, car insurance was not a requirement for every person to be driving a car. Back in those days, there weren't a lot of safety features in cars. You barely had a seatbelt. There was no airbags. There was nothing. You got into an accident, you flew through the windshield. When car insurance companies had to start paying out a lot of those insurance claims, well, they started mandating things like, well, if you're going to have car insurance, you need to have a 3-point seatbelt. You need to have airbags. Pretty soon you're going to have parking assist and crash assist and all these all new fun technology features. You're going to start to have those to have car insurance. Cyber liability insurance is kind of in its infancy. It's kind of like car insurance back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s before it really became mainstream. And it's still fine tuning all the needs out there. But cyber liability insurance is very critical to have because say you are hit with the ransomware, say you are stuck in the water and someone's demanding $1 million payout to you. Well, your first call is actually to your insurance company. Just like if you're in a car accident, if you're in any car accident, what's your first call? As long as everyone is safe and okay, your first call is to your insurance company. Otherwise, it's 911. Please call 911 if you're in a car accident and you need them. But your first call is typically your car insurance company. Same concept here. If you have a cyber liability insurance claim, you might call us first to confirm, is this ransomware? Did something happen? Or your trusted IT professional, did something happen? That person's going to say, well, we have cyber liability insurance. We need to talk to them first. What do they want us to do? Because I've seen cyber liability insurance companies come in and say, hey, you can restore everything. Go ahead and restore, IT company. You never get a bill. Your IT company charges the insurance company for all that time to recover and deal with your systems. I will say in my 15 years of working in this managed service world, I've probably been through about 25 different ransomware recoveries. Every single one of them, we have actually restored the data because they've all accepted my backup recommendations and my disaster planning. Again, we're going to discuss that in a couple of weeks of things to consider in that. But it's that bill could be pretty pricey. I've never seen anything under $5,000 for the amount of labor it costs to restore files, even for a small group of a couple of people. So have that cyber liability insurance. Get in on the forefront. It's going to be a lot cheaper for you to get in now than it will be in 5-10 years. So in conclusion here, don't let it get your head spinning. IT can be explained in common day language. I like to say that, I'm an expert in translating geek speak. There are a lot of us out there in IT that, we can use the acronyms, but we don't have to be the smartest person in the room. We can explain things in common day language and have a real discussion about risk and need. Game plan your technology decisions. Use a whiteboard and lay out your plan and consult your entire team before execution. Can't count the number of times there's a project that, everything's going great, and then we find out accounting can't print their invoices anymore because we changed the whole printing process of the whole platform. No one consulted with accounting to say, hey, accounting, you use this system. How do you interact with it? So always consult your entire team before you're making any big technology decisions. We do have a lot of local MSPs in the area. If you are coming in from nationwide, I'm sure there's a local MSP near you. There are nationwide MSPs as well. We're very stacked at this point. It's a good market right now. We're here to help guide you, plan with you, and ensure your business is safeguarded in this ever-changing landscape here. So that's all I got here. If anyone has any questions or comments, or I don't see anything in the chat here, so I think I might have explained things pretty well then.
Chris, I got to tell you that here at Gannon, they sent out that the fake spam to see if you click on it, and I fell for it and I had to go through training. I am so skeptical, and I think everything is spam, but they did it so well that I didn't pick up on the small little detail that I should have been like, oh yeah, that isn't even real,
The last client I had signed up for it, and we just finished up their last round of testing. The business owner was confident. I'm going to have 3 people. They were a group of about 20. I know those 3 people are going to click on anything you send them. And I pull up the report, and every single person clicked on what I sent them. Because I made it real. I sent them out different types of emails like, hey, this is, your Netflix account's going to expire. A lot of people have Netflix. That one didn't get a full response. I had about 4 or 5 people who didn't click on that one. They probably don't have Netflix. or it's an Amazon order. Well, all of, purchasing and, accounts receivable accounts, they're going to, click on an Amazon link, but someone who, just works in engineering, they might not click on an Amazon link. So, when you're doing that training and you're really trying to teach your staff, you have to be targeted for what, is going to happen to them.
I didn't ask for his permission, but I'm just going to share it anyways. So there was an email going out for a while that, hey, this is so and so. It's really urgent. I'm in a meeting. Can you run and get a gift card? Blah blah blah. My brother fell for it,
Hmm.
and he sent them the codes, and
Yep.
then they came back and they said, hey, I need another one for so and so. They had this information about the organization and they
Yep.
had his email. I don't know how they could get it, but he was like, this is all legit because these are people I know that I work with. And it seemed, I was like,
Yep.
I can't believe you fell for it. I knew it was a spam when I got it. But I
Yep.
mean, I can't even tell you how much money he blew getting these gift cards and sent him the code. And then after
Yep.
I was like, this is kind of, it doesn't seem right. Like they keep emailing me. So
And you know
what
who's a
happens
big,
to smart people, you
yep,
know?
it can happen to anybody.
Mhm.
A big target are new staff members, because a lot of people will announce to the world, we have a new staff member. You
Yes,
you
yes.
announce it on LinkedIn, you announce it on Facebook, that's great, but then they're a huge target because they don't know your business procedures. They don't know what's normal in your business. So I did have a law firm at one point. They had a new admin assistant there, and she got an email from the president of the company to go buy $5,000 worth of Apple gift cards, and you'll be reimbursed. And she did it because she
Yeah,
didn't
you're
know
a
that wouldn't be
newbie. You
normal.
wanna do good.
Exactly. She was trying to impress the boss. Yeah, I'll run out and do that right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a scary world out there. It's definitely not going to get any less scary. So I went back to this slide with the little rain cloud on the computer there, because
I was
you know,
laughing.
it's it's not going to get better. It's only going to get more complicated. For me, it's going to get more fun, but that's me.
Right.
It's not going to be fun for everyone else. So, just be, thinking about those decisions when you're thinking about the cloud, what repercussions, even things like I've asked vendors where, say a business wants a cloud application. They're like, well, it's in the cloud. It's great. I talk to that cloud application and say, well, what's your disaster recovery policy? And a lot of those online vendors will say, what do you mean? We're in the cloud. Like, yeah, but what if your website goes down?
Right.
Like, what are you going to do if your website goes down because we can't access your website? So asking those right questions, knowing what questions to ask, a lot of, your IT professionals are going to know that. So utilize them in whatever shape and way you can.
Jeff, maybe you can comment on this. A lot of our small businesses don't have the income or they don't think that it's as important as it really is to invest in something like this. So they're using the cloud thinking this is cost effective, great way team can interact and get the files that they need and they're not thinking about the the rain cloud that's
Yeah.
coming or is there, or they just don't think that it's worth the investment.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say there's not a huge benefits to the cloud too, and there's plenty of safe ways to use
Like,
it. It's just
right.
you got to remember, how to use it or what to ask when you are choosing cloud services, because there are so many out there. But just keeping it secure, the passwords are huge. If you're doing all that effectively, it's an amazing tool for you.
It is
But
the partly cloudy day with sunshine shining through.
yeah,
Exactly. Okay, let's touch real quickly on ECS. So, do you guys have tiers of support, let's say for a small business, big business, anywhere in between? Where can people reach you if they have any questions? And do you do consultations?
yeah, we definitely do consultations. Our website's, I think it's in the chat there, ecsconnects.com. We have customers that have one or two users to enterprises to local government agencies. So we can really help anyone size wise. We have on-call support 24/7, 365. So if there's any emergency after-hour support, we're always there. But we're happy to come in, sit down, and just go over, what are you doing with your technology? How are you managing it? What are some recommendations? And just kind of go over that with you to consult and help you out that way.
That's awesome. Tech can be scary if you don't know it.
Yeah.
You guys
Yep.
are living it, but like I said, smart people fall for the spam and they don't
Yep, for
really
sure.
understand that it's so valuable to secure the success of a small business.
Yep.
Mm.
And really, the securing your small business secures other small businesses around you and the neighborhood around you, and it really propagates out. So, like I said, it is on everyone to be thinking about their own security.
For sure. And like you mentioned, it's embarrassing when it happens.
It
So
is.
don't let it happen to you.
And actually, I know we're kind of running towards the end here, but just something to think about in your employee manual. There's something I've been actually working on here to be able to template out for others. Have a social media policy in your employee handbook. I can't say the number of times that like, hey, a ransomware is happening, and it's actually found out about because somebody posted on their Facebook, on their personal Facebook. That shouldn't be allowed. Put a policy in your employee handbook that says if you're going to post about work on your personal thing, you have to get marketing's approval. You need to have somebody's approval before you can
Yeah,
talk about that.
that is
I've
such
even
a great
seen,
point.
I know somebody who their wife was let go from their position because they were complaining about their boss on Facebook while they were on company time.
Oops.
So they had, it wasn't that she was complaining about her boss, it was that she was wasting her time being on social media. That was the policy that she violated. So
Gotcha.
in that employee handbook, they said you're not allowed to be on social media, your personal accounts when you're at work. So she said that same comment at 6 p.m. No harm, no foul. But
Right.
some companies want to say, no, you can't post about us ever on your thing. So have your employee manual state what you want to state. Make sure it's reviewed by your lawyer to make sure everything is legit and covered for you. But have those things in your employee manual. Have some of these security items in your employee manual that are just signed off on right off the bat. So if somebody has a question or an issue, they don't want you monitoring their computers for what they're, browsing on the web. Well, then they have an option to not work for you right off the bat then, but you're going to protect your business.
Those are all great points. Chris, Jeff, thank you so much. This is so
Thank you.
valuable. Everybody needs to hear it. And like I said earlier, we will be sharing this recording. So thanks everybody for joining us. And if you haven't already, jump onto our website to sign up and register for the next 2 sessions.
Thank you all very
Everybody
much.
have a great Friday.
Thank you.
Happy weekend.